future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up.
Oh boy, that's loaded. Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. You're here with Deborah, Zara, Kobylt, and Linda Hayes. Welcome to our show. And we are so glad you're here. It has been such a great week.
What a great week. Starting with last week
Yep.
at the Republican presidential debate.
It was
so exciting.
so fun. And ever since then, I have been obsessed with watching the candidates, seeing what's going on, seeing who's pulling out, seeing who's not.
Right.
Watching the numbers. I should just be a strategist. I mean, at the rate I'm going.
You're well informed. You know, being at the debate it makes you realize the patriotism. I know that's maybe a stretch for some, but it really was special. You know, maybe because it was at the Reagan Library. It was red, white, and blue, and it was just really made me excited about the next president.
Well, the setting there was beautiful. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, because I am always very clear. I go right down the center. I vote for the guy or the girl. I have never been one to vote either way. I mean, to vote just one way.
Right.
So I always like to preface that so people don't think, oh, you just like it because of that. But I think it was a fantastic setting. I thought that they handled it quite well. A lot of people thought that some of the candidates didn't get much of a word in. But it was designed.
That's the way it goes.
That is the way it goes.
You gotta be a loudmouth. I mean, you do.
No wonder why I get so much airtime. Oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Speaking of that, you rocked the house because Deborah is such a good journalist. I don't know. I have to pat you on the back because at the end, we're all in the spin room trying to get sound bites and
everybody's just sort of walking around, right?
It's kind of crazy, and I'm small, so I just was watching from above, and there goes Deborah, man. She's in there. She's in the crowd, and what does she do? She gets Trump. She follows the sun, and we should roll. I want everyone at home to see what it's like when you're in that spin room.
There's a spin room there.
Yeah, there's all the people.
We're above the spin room. The entire station we were up there. Oh, there's Anderson Cooper. And the spin room is where everyone sort of gathers after
the
it
debate.
is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And then all the reporters gravitate toward.
And it was funny. They
people.
hold up the
Oh,
sign
little
of the
signs.
candidate,
And it's fun from that vantage point where we were
Yeah,
to
it
watch
was
what
really
was
cool.
going on.
Right.
And
then Deborah couldn't hold back. She's like, I'm going down. I'm going down there.
A bunch of us were
Right?
going down there, but I didn't just want to stand there and wait. I wanted to do something else. So, to be perfectly honest, and this is just the way I roll, I had to use the restroom. So, because I had to use I'm going to be honest, because I had to use the restroom, I ended up coming back into the room in the very front. Can you almost see one of the pictures where I was right in the front of all the journalists, and I thought, oh,
That's
good
an
positioning.
opportunity. Yeah.
So in comes Trump, and I'm like, oh, well, great spot. Why not? It was just kind of dumb luck. And then when you're in a spot like that, that's where, the one on the right is where you could see where I just walked in the room and I thought, oops, I'm just going to stand here.
Oops.
So it
Right.
wasn't really quite done by design. The one where you could see he was further back, that's when I was a little further back from him. And then I needed to use the restroom, and that's where it goes.
Do you have the video of her racing after and running, trying to get the soundbite?
Oh, there's his son.
Because this is really good. This is like you're almost there with you. I want people to know what it's like to be a reporter. I mean, you have to have some balls. You do.
Your question? How do you think your dad did?
He did amazing.
Yeah.
Very, very proud of him. Yeah, he did
I'll
amazing.
bet. Is he going to be having you guys out on the campaign trail more?
We're having a lot of fun. We've got great company to run as well, but we're having a great time.
Thanks.
Yeah, you know, he seems like a nice kid.
They are well raised. They are decent kids. Ivanka was right either behind me or right by side of me. Now, I'm a tall girl. I'm 5'9" in my flats. She was so tall, gorgeous, absolutely stunning. And when
She is pretty.
Oh, she's stunning. But these are smart kids.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, they are not. They've done a decent job with these kids. He was a nice guy. I mean, he was friendly. He wasn't standoffish. And then there was another point when we kept walking. There it is, right there. Where I.
This is where you really get a feel for what it's like, right?
Donald, what's your first order of business?
Go straight home.
Go straight
Donald,
home.
what's your first order of business? I'm going straight home. I thought that was pretty funny. You have to scream over these people, but it's amazing.
I love your little voice. Donald, what's the order of business?
Well, it's funny how your reporter's instincts just kick in.
Yeah, you do.
But that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm generally kind of a friendly, fun, really kind of outgoing, but quiet person.
But the fact that
in
he
terms of running
answered
after
you,
people.
I mean, people might be like, "Oh, he just said I'm going home," but that's funny to me because everyone was screaming out things to him, and then Deborah says, "What's your next order of business?"
Well, what's your first order of
And he
business? In other
answers.
words, when you become president, what's the first thing you're going to do? Are you going to go to McDonald's? I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So the guy wanted to go home.
Well, he was tired. He said 3 hours of standing up.
And then I just followed him out to his car. I was
Yeah.
not. The doors closed, and a couple of us just kept walking with him. And I think he ended up at the car with Rick Santorum. Is that right? Okay, this video's off to the side, so you're just
Yeah, you
deal
have
with
to
it.
crank your head sideways.
Take good care of him.
Media's not supposed to be out here, people.
He's used to it. I'm just like, he's used to it.
He loves it. He lives off of it.
He loves it, but I get it because that was sort of a personal moment where they're
Yeah.
going into the car. But I just kept walking with these people.
Fair game, until
He
you're
was
in that
fair
car
game.
with the
And I
tinted
would've-
windows,
and I would have gone
anything
in if I
goes.
could have.
I don't put it past you, Deborah.
Yeah, but it was so much fun. A whole
Yeah.
bunch of us were there, and we just had a terrific time.
Brings back memories, doesn't it, of the good old days of CNN and when we were there on the front lines. I mean, we were right there. It was
Well, it was
time-
interesting.
It's almost like no time had passed.
When you work for a national network, I remember covering that for CNN. And I remember at one point we were in Ireland, actually, because we quickly took a vacation. And I sat down in the hotel room and I turned on the TV. Boom, on came CNN and one of our pieces, my
Yeah.
pieces. And I thought, oh, wow. And it dawned on me that's the impact that a station like that can have. Because you can be anywhere and someone will see your
Oh,
story.
I had someone say, I saw a piece you did, and the guy was in Beijing. That's really cool.
Yeah. that
You
was
know, so those
really-
were good old days. And
Now, of course, you could see it on the internet, which is fantastic.
Right. Times have
Podcasting,
changed, yeah.
amazing.
which is what we're doing now.
Exactly. So the voice continues, but it was such an amazing time, and it was so fun reporting with you and the other
Yeah.
the other hosts on the station too. It was a great.
It was a lot of fun. So we've been following the polls. Carly Fiorina kind of inched her way up.
Just a second, right?
Second. I don't know where it stands. I mean, Trump dropped a little. He was on the news the other day with NBC. I was laughing my head off. He said, "Why are you reporting a CNN poll when I'm talking to NBC? Your poll made me, I had higher ratings in your poll. Why are you talking about CNN?" Which I thought was a good point.
That's a clever point.
Yeah. I was, why are they talking about the CNN poll when it was an NBC interview?
Well, as people drop out one by
Yeah.
one, I wonder where those votes are going to go, because a lot of them may then go to the base, which would be
Right.
a Bush or someone that a lot of Republicans might instead
Right.
gravitate toward. I think he's opened up the field and he's made it so interesting just for people who say, I'm sick of the base, I'm sick of the old way.
Right.
I know this guy's arrogant, but he's refreshing. He's got
Right.
something to say that's different than the guys who have been paid off for all these years.
It's nice to hear someone
yeah.
not be politically correct, quite frankly.
I
I
mean,
am
it's a
enjoying
little
it.
off-putting to me, but
I think it's funny.
I know a lot of people think it's funny.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's a little
funny.
rude to go
Well,
after a
it's rude.
woman, actually. And what he said about Rosie O'Donnell bothered me from the day he did it.
But you know in the business, you have to deflect as a woman.
Yeah,
you
it's
have
a
to
good point.
deflect and you have to bring humor into it. If you don't do that, and I don't feel like Carly Fiorina did, if you don't do that, you're just looked at as like the Wicked Witch of the West.
She did not resonate.
Not
to
for me either.
And I want to stand behind. I really want to stand behind a woman.
But it has to be the right woman.
It has to be the right woman. But for me, she
Right.
was not it. I'll give her
neither.
another chance or two or three. But she didn't do it
First
for me.
impressions are. I was hoping for the good first impression. I did not get it.
Yeah,
so.
but I stand in the minority because, and so do you.
Yeah, I
because
know. We're in the
most people
minority.
really thought she did great. I thought she was
Should we
angry, and I'm
Yeah,
not interested in angry.
Not either. You can't be angry. You got to get over it and move on and look at the positive.
Michael Reagan. Remember, we had an hour with him
Yeah,
in
it was
studio. We were the only show and station where he would sit down for an hour and give us an entire hour of his time. He was talking about his father. I don't even know if we have a clip of that, if we pulled it. But
We should bring
we'll go
that
to
back.
We'll go
after,
to that
'cause
later.
Maybe we want to bring up Andy.
Yeah, we'll bring up Andy. But I
Andy-
just want to say one thing about Michael Reagan. He predicted that the Good Doctor would fall by the wayside.
He was right about that.
But he really didn't. I think the Good Doctor did not fall by
Well,
the
he
wayside.
was second, and now Carly's moving up, taking his spot.
But he thought he'd be out, and instead it ended up Walker. So interesting to watch.
Yeah,
right?
lots to talk about in the next year or two, whatever how long it goes on.
So who's coming on next, Linda?
We have this is special to me.
Yes, it is.
Andy Oak, like a tree. Andy was recently at the President Rutherford B. Hayes Library and Museum.
And
which
may I
is-
say,
Yes, you can say.
as he said, it's Linda's the house of Linda's ancestors, if
Right.
you will. It's your family
Right,
name.
Jim Hayes, my husband's family, direct descendant.
Of Rutherford
Yeah,
B. Hayes.
and great. My kids are the great grandchildren of Rutherford B. Hayes. I mean, it's a direct descendant.
I think that
Comes right
so
from the oldest
cool.
son, which is cool. It's something to be proud of.
Oh my gosh.
So
I'm
Andy was there, right? He
Yes.
was talking about first ladies. We're like, this is so great because we're in election time and it's a little soon to talk about first ladies or first husbands. But it's time to look back at what influences first ladies had in our past. And
So interesting, right? So
It really is.
you're a producer over at C-SPAN,
C-SPAN.
right? And you gave a talk on first ladies at Linda's house, the Hayes the Hayes
Linda's
Library.
house.
Is that correct?
Yes, Linda. Thank you for letting me visit your ancestors' house. It's a beautiful house in Fremont, Ohio.
and the
It's one of
staff
the
there
many
is
places I've
fantastic.
traveled.
Didn't you love the staff there? They're
Well,
just so down to earth, wonderful people.
I
They
like
work
that.
very hard.
They're-
They work very hard.
They're wonderful people, and when I was out there for the C-SPAN series, actually they were doing a lot of renovations, so I got to see a lot of things I didn't see in the first time around. After my speech, they gave me a private tour of the house. We just kind of
Yeah,
stuck
the
around
house.
and looked at all the
they
new
wanted
different
it-
stuff. It's
Right.
beautiful.
They wanted to bring it back to when Rutherford B. Hayes lived there. So they put, I don't know, $1 million into it. Now, the family lived there, and then it went to the state. So the house was done up when the family lived there.
Is
so
that the
it was
library?
very interesting.
The house is now the Rutherford B.
No,
Hayes
there's two-
Library?
there's
it's
two places,
Two
yeah.
different buildings. Yeah, the house actually Rutherford Lucy Hayes, the
There
first
she
lady,
is,
former
up
first
there.
lady.
She's
she
a cutie.
died
Look at
before
that.
Rutherford B. Hayes.
Look at that scooped
and
neck she's
Rutherford
wearing.
lives there for a long time afterwards.
Right. And they have their own, what I like, and this is kind of morbid, but I like going to the graveyard. Did you ever go there, Andy, when you were in the neighborhood?
Oh,
There's-
I visit every first couple before I go and speak at their facility, just to kind of say hello.
Oh, that's so
reintroduce
sweet.
Myself,
That's
and
interesting.
But this
Yeah.
this graveyard has all the descendants, everything right there, and it's interesting.
well,
that-
I
does that
wanna
mean-
say
wait a minute,
One
does that mean
thing
there's
real
a
quickly
place
about
for you?
where you guys were, because Ronnie is there at the Reagan Library, and Nancy Reagan will be there eventually. But that was not the initial site. That beautiful, beautiful mountaintop library. Reagan initially wanted to have his library closer down to Stanford University, but the Hoovers were already there, and they
Oh.
didn't want to have two
They didn't want to
Republican
share,
presidents.
right?
So, and they didn't want a Republican and a Republican. Maybe if Ronnie had been a Democrat, they would have been more open to it. But a friend of the Reagans took him up on this mountain and showed him this piece of land and said, "This might be where you want to be." And Ronnie and Nancy were like, "There's no other place." It's one of the most beautiful
It is.
federally
It is
run
so
libraries
beautiful.
in the whole fleet.
And you really like Nancy Reagan. I mean, I guess we'll go back kind of in time, but we're talking about first ladies, and you said she's one of the funniest first ladies, right? Nancy Reagan.
She is. Yeah, she doesn't. It's Washington D.C. This will probably shock all of your listeners and you too as well. But Washington D.C. is very fickle. Washington D.C. What's
What?
good for
Is
one
that
first
true?
lady is not good for another first lady. I know this is breaking news, but some first ladies don't dress nicely enough or don't buy enough new stuff, and some first ladies dress too nicely or buy too much nice stuff.
Right. She was
And Nancy
criticized all
Reagan
the time.
She really was.
she really got some criticism for wearing dresses that were too expensive and being too Hollywood and being too fancy. And she doesn't let this bother her, and she even shows up at a regular gridiron,
There's a
black
lesson.
and black tied dinner, dressed up in basically a clown suit. I mean, she puts on this mismatch of like rubber boots and big scarves and hats and funny glasses and the whole thing, and comes on and recites this speech that she's changed the words to a famous poem where she basically makes fun of herself. And
I
she,
love that.
She uses
Yeah.
It's great. It's great because, you just, in certain first ladies are very unique in that they're not elected, they're not paid. They are merely married to the person that is in the White House. Now, this will eventually, I would hope, I would think, it's actually kind of shocking that it hasn't happened yet, that there will be a first gentleman.
I
maybe
know.
sooner than we think. And we will not have elected him. He will just be the husband of the woman who becomes president. And that's sort of the kind of gist of my part in this C-SPAN series, was that I wanted to get to know the women that were the girls, that were the girlfriends, that were the young women, the young
girlfriends.
mothers, the people that dated the man that would be president, and then go on to be widowers and grandmothers and things like that. The limited bit we know about these women as a whole is what they did while they were in the White House.
Right.
So, expanding and showing these women as real people, people that laugh and cry and love and lose and celebrate. And, there's just, it's a real, the journey was so amazing, studying every first lady from Martha Washington to Michelle Obama, that I really, with reading letters, and I mean, gosh, I've seen Lady Bird Johnson's swimsuits hanging up in her walk-in closet at the ranch in Texas. I mean,
What does that look
been
like?
where people have not been. It's amazing, and I feel very close to all these women.
You have all these little interesting tidbits that we don't. Throw out a couple about the first ladies that we wouldn't have known about. Maybe the best cook. I mean, I don't know what you've discovered in your search.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's a handful of first ladies I think that everyone can name. You go off the top. Obviously the ones that are living: Hillary Clinton, Nancy Reagan, and Jacqueline Kennedy, Eleanor Roosevelt, Martha Washington. But there's so many in between. I would even say, Linda, that your relation, Lucy Hayes, she's one of the most influential first ladies that people will not name if they're naming 20 first ladies. And here's why.
I want to know.
She's the first lady to graduate from college. She's the first lady with a college degree.
She's kind of cute.
Lucy Hayes does things before it's cool. Lucy Hayes is a pioneer of philanthropy.
It's like your daughter.
You know what? She's known for in the media as Lemonade Lucy, and that's not really fair.
Yeah,
I mean, she did a dry White House, which
kind of
doesn't really fit in my. I'm not going to reveal too much, but it's very opposite. Okay,
She
let's
did a
just
dry White House.
dry White
Okay.
House. So
I love the name,
Well, and
Lemonade
not- and-
Lucy. That's
was
funny.
And not completely dry.
Oh.
Not completely
Ooh,
dry.
okay.
They served wine.
All right, that's all right
It was
then.
just that Lucy did away with the whiskey punches and some of the heavy stuff that people were just
The hard
getting loaded
alcohol.
on, and she wasn't the
She was
first.
sick of it.
And she wasn't the only.
I like her.
Frances
you know what?
Cleveland
She probably
was not a
didn't-
drinker.
She probably didn't want people stumbling around, breaking
Well,
her
she
stuff.
probably it doesn't look good. It's not classy, to be drunk and falling all over in the White House.
There was also the case that after the Civil War and all that kind of stuff sort of settled down and people were kind of settling into this new world, the Grant White House was very raucous. There were a lot of
And that was the
card
one
games
before.
and a lot of cigar smoking and a lot of hard liquor. And Lucy had taken a vow of temperance long before she met Rutherford for religious purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. I like her because she didn't force it on anyone else.
Right.
It's, they say in Washington, you're doing the right thing if both sides don't like you.
Yeah. You ride the middle.
The right thing is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
If the Democrats think you're too conservative and the conservatives think you're too liberal, then you're probably on the right track. You've hit somewhere in the middle. And Lucy didn't drink herself, but she went to events where alcohol was served. So the women's Christian temperance movement was very upset with her. And they're the ones that paid for her White House portrait. But they were upset because she attended riverboat functions where there was alcohol and drinking, and they're like, and Lucy's response was, "I said I wasn't going to drink. I didn't say other people couldn't."
You could do what you want, right?
A lot of people say that Lincoln's next thing he was going to tackle was alcohol abuse because it was so rampant and creating such unproductivity in the United States that it was a real problem. Sarah Polk had a dry White House. She served wine as well, but she did away with the liquor, the rum punches and the whiskey punches, because she was in Washington and was at one of her husband's card games one night when James Polk was Speaker of the House, and saw a bunch of guys get loaded and get loose at the lips and start talking out of school and saying things they shouldn't.
Oops.
She pulled James aside and said, hey, this is not going to fly for us. We're smarter than this. You're not going to get loaded. We're not going to have all these raucous. But the Polks served like 17-course meals that lasted all day, and people talked about Brown. But she didn't get a nickname like Lemonade Sarah. I think it's just one of those. It's those
things,
points in times in history. But even beyond that, everyone in D.C. loved her.
Yeah,
If
she
you
was
can-
liked,
if you
well
can
liked.
Throw parties and have people say that you've got a fantastic party and you didn't get people drunk. Well, man, you're quite a hostess.
Okay,
That's
I'm
a
going to
good
throw
point.
a couple words out at you and then just name the first lady. Who's sort of the nuttiest, the craziest, the looniest?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, the easy answer there, is Mary Lincoln, because she's the only one that was institutionalized. But
That's too bad. You
You know,
never
there's-
know why a woman was institutionalized, though. I mean, honest, especially back in the day. Maybe they wanted to shut her up. I mean,
well, the other thing
They
is
had a lot of
she
heartbreak
was-
back then.
She was
yes.
she had a rough life, as many of them did. I mean, the children that the Washingtons raised in the White House are not George and Martha's Washington. They're the grandson and they're the grandchildren of Martha Washington's kids from her first marriage that all died. All
true.
of Martha Washington's kids with her first husband were dead by the time they were in their early 20s.
People
So-
don't
Imagine
realize that.
That's harsh. That's hard. How do you get over
I
it?
know,
You
and then
can't.
how you just sort of rise above it
go
and just
about
be sort of
normal life.
okay and smile and
Jane Pierce's last child, last remaining of 3, was basically decapitated in front of her and the president in a train accident on the way back to their house to pack up to come to Washington to be inaugurated into a presidency that Jane Pierce wanted no part of.
Ugh.
This stuff's all over the place.
Ugh.
I mean, it's crazy how people died, all the way up to, President Wilson had 2 wives because his first wife died in the White House. She's the second first lady to die in the White House. The first is Tyler's first wife, Letitia.
Yeah,
But
she
we're
was
getting a
kinda
little bit
pretty.
off track.
Yeah,
so,
we're a
so,
little bit.
so with Mary Lincoln, there are actually, this is amazing because you think Abraham Lincoln, what else can we know about him? What else is there to learn? What else? But there was a safe that was opened up recently that belonged to his longest and last remaining son, Robert Lincoln, who was the congressman, who gets a real bad rap for institutionalizing his mother. Well, there are papers in there that show that he was trying to protect her by any means necessary. She was having hallucinations. She was self-medicating. She was medicating improperly, not to her own on her own accord, but doctors were over medicating her because that's just what they did in those days. And people that were hysterical, they just subdued them medically. And so she
really
was found
sad.
walking the streets of Chicago in her undergarments, saying that her house was on fire, that her apartment was on fire. Well, a psychologist called Robert Lincoln and said, when people hallucinate that their house is on fire, they jump out of windows. Mary Lincoln lived on like the 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th floor, something like that. So he thought his mother was going to have hallucinations and jump out the window and kill herself, thinking she was getting away from this fire that didn't exist. He institutionalized her. She got off some medication. She calmed down and was released 6 months later and lived a relatively happy life for Mary Lincoln with her sister back home in Lexington, Kentucky. So, I mean,
yeah,
what
He did the
was
right
she
thing,
crazy?
you know?
Was she nutty? Sure, but there's reasons behind it.
right. She was going through a tough time. Who knows?
We saw so much of Jackie O because that was at the time when television was for the first
New.
time everywhere.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
from then on, we knew so much about Ford and the troubles that she went through. So it's almost the more modern generations, because of television, know so much about the first ladies. But who do you think had an impact before TV, that would have had an even greater one if media was such a big deal? Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's 2 women that come to mind, and one, Lucy Hayes, and I'm not saying that just because I'm on with Linda.
Good old Lucy.
No, I'm not.
I read up on her. She's a cutie.
She's cute.
At every speech I go to, whether I'm talking at the Grant House or the Eisenhower Library or wherever, I say Lucy Hayes is one of the most instrumental first ladies. She's transitional. She is transformative, not transitional.
I love
she
that.
takes the role And because she's already out there, she's the eyes and ears for her husband when he's the governor of Ohio. She's going to mental institutions and orphanages and hospitals and going back and telling Rutherford, like, hey, things aren't right here. You need to step in and do something. And she did that when she got to the White House. The same deal. Huge advocate for veterans. The stories go on forever about Lucy Hayes.
But you know what's nice is he listened to her. I mean, he did listen.
I was just going to say he listened to her because some of them didn't have that kind of relationship, and they were.
I think they really were in love. Like they had a good relationship. When you read some of their love letters, so that's kind of nice.
Lucy paved the way for women like Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt, I mean, if for no other reason that she's the longest sitting first lady at 12 years in that position, is one of the most influential first ladies. But she did that for her husband because her husband was in a wheelchair. And she was motivated to do that for a number of different reasons. But if women hadn't come along and done non-traditional roles like Lucy Hayes before her, then Eleanor Roosevelt doesn't exist, or maybe doesn't exist in the same way, or doesn't have that sort of, mindset. Or, it's a domino effect. Lucy does it so someone else can do it, so someone else can do it, so Eleanor. So I'm not saying that Lucy Hayes was a direct influence of Eleanor Roosevelt, but if Lucy hadn't been Lucy, Eleanor couldn't be Eleanor. It'd be a different thing. The other first lady who gets the least amount of press, who probably did the most nice things that any first lady's ever done, is Lou Hoover. And they just were at the wrong place at the wrong time in the middle of the Great Depression.
She was pretty,
if they had come along at a different time with a different set of media and public relations, Lou Hoover would be, we'd have Lou Hoover Day. She was so wonderful.
No one talks about her. What was so special about her? She was striking to me. I think she's beautiful. Yeah. Maybe it's that photo we're looking at.
She's a remarkable woman. First of all, Lou is not a nickname. Lou is her given name.
It's her given
name. Her father
name?
wanted a boy and didn't get one and named her Lou.
That happened a lot back in the day. Yeah.
He's a banker that moved from Iowa out to California, and she was toting guns and riding horses and going out into the desert and doing non-girl stuff from the beginning.
She's like me. You're right.
She's the first woman to graduate from Stanford University with a geology degree, most likely the first woman to graduate in the country with a geology degree, and that's where she meets Hoover. So, long story short, she and Hoover go around the world. They're the first of only two administrations not to take salary because they were multimillionaires. They're sitting at their summer home in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and a child walks into camp to give the president a birthday present. They're there on his birthday. So what ends up happening is Lou Hoover discovers there's no school in the Shenandoah Valley for these mountain children. With her own money and no publicity and no newspaper articles or nothing crazy about it, she pays to build a school. She pays the teacher's salary of that school.
That's what I like.
And some of the children that have the aptitude to go on to college, she pays for their college education. When Lou Hoover dies, in her private desk in her study, they find a box full of checks that were uncashed. They were from some of the students that were trying to pay Lou Hoover back for the college education she provided, and Lou didn't cash a single check. That's one of
that is so. She's my new favorite because I find that to be very appealing in a person,
and I love that she doesn't have any narcissism. Like back then, they didn't.
Very appealing to me, where it's not about you; it's about the work you're doing,
and you don't brag about it. No one even knew about it until you brought it up, Andy.
Absolutely, I did not know that. Yeah. That's a beautiful story. I'm just going to talk to my board up for a second. Can our next caller just kind of hang on for a little bit?
There's so much, cool. This is so fascinating.
But wait a minute. I want to get to the present day First Lady quickly because we're running out of little time. And who do you think would be a great First Lady
or husband
or a first husband? I mean, come on, we all know about Bill. Man, would I love to see that, right?
That'd be crazy.
It would be crazy. more shoe throwing and all that kind of stuff. I know somebody who worked during that administration. I know someone. In fact, my closest friend, we've had him on the show quite a few times, was a CNN correspondent under Obama. Oh, Lord, he's told me all kinds of stuff that I can't reveal at all. But I'm just saying, so I know a little bit there. But the new ones coming up, who do you think would be an interesting one who would make an impact, or the men? I don't know.
Well, there's a number of different. The big thing on everyone's mind is, what do we call? And I get this at every speech. Are you going to be the first lady's gentleman's man's man, the first lady man, or what's going to? I'm always going to be the first lady's man. I mean, that's just who I am.
That's your
what
title.
I do.
Wait, that's what you call him?
That's what his title.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
they
go
can't.
to my website, firstladiesman.com.
So they can't
Everything's
take
there.
that.
I'm
They
writing
can't
a
take
book,
it.
Everything's coming out.
No,
What's
but
what?
but what do you think of the present day candidates that are up there? What do you think of their wives? Like
Yeah,
Trump's
well,
wife, she's gorgeous,
if
she's
I'm- if
beautiful.
I'm-
She doesn't speak that
Of
much.
who? I'm sorry?
Trump's wife, for example, she doesn't speak much. She's beautiful. Melania, I think is
Yeah,
her
Melania.
name. She's
right.
lovely.
Beautiful.
Well,
I think she's
now,
elegant.
There is a possibility.
Oh
there's a
God, she's not just
possibility within this
beautiful.
election-
Holy, good Lord, I
There's-
want that dress.
there's-
Go ahead,
There's
sorry.
multiple possibilities within this election. Trump and Jeb Bush, that we could have the second non-American-born first lady. The
Right.
first
That's
non-American-born first lady is Louisa Catherine Adams. She's actually born in London. So that in itself would be unusual. If we go to the first gentleman question, I mean, if I'm a huge 24 fan, the series with Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland,
Yeah.
and they had a female president. So she was Madam President. It's most likely that that's what she will be called. It just makes sense.
Madam
and then it would then be
President.
the first. So it'd be Madam President and the first gentleman. It seems to make
I
sense.
like the first
That's
gentleman.
I
likely
like
where
the
it will
word
go.
gentleman.
That's lovely. The first gentleman. You almost want to say it with a bit of
But
an
now,
accent.
think about this. If Hillary Clinton gets the nomination and wins, Bill Clinton is her husband. However, all past presidents are referred to as
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
So it'd be
So you
Mr.
would
and
have-
Mrs. and Mr. President. They'd have to dress her
Mr.
first.
Wait, Mrs. and Mr. Presidents. Presidents?
You would have Madam and Mr. President.
So she wouldn't be called Mrs. President.
Or Madam
I
President?
think people would probably say, Mrs. President, I have a question, Mrs. President.
Yeah,
Or
but when
Madam
they're
Clinton.
together,
I mean,
like
we
how do
still
you
say-
address their invitation? That's a good one.
Well,
Madam
exactly.
and
But
Mr.
if you want
President.
to go, if you want to go with the formal title, it would be Madam and Mr. President Clinton.
That's crazy.
That's easy.
Yeah.
There you go. So that would be interesting. What about Carly's husband? I don't know very much about him at all.
Carly Fiorino. Do you know anything about her?
I don't either. So if Carly were to go on and get the nomination and win,
There he
she
is.
would then be Madam President, and he would, I would guess at this point, be the first gentleman, and he would be the first gentleman, and he would have his own causes. Maybe he would take on prostate cancer for men,
Yeah.
or no shave November, or physical fitness, or I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many, and this goes back again to Lucy. If a first lady or first gentleman comes into the White House and doesn't pick some kind of cause, whether it's reading with the Bushes or let's move with Michelle Obama, I mean, they're expected to do this. They are put into a philanthropic spotlight, so he's going to have to pick something. Now, here's something that has not popped up, which I find very unusual, is that no one talks about Hillary Clinton's health. Like, we know about polyps on George Bush and Dick Cheney and everything else that we don't really want to know. We know what their physical exams are. We know when they run. We know when they exercise. No one has said anything about, so, I mean.
Well, we'll probably get to that,
such a
though.
Strange. I think we will.
They're already.
I thought we'd get to it because she had some brain issues and some things like that. But it's always the first lady we've always respected for the most part
Their privacy in a
private
way.
life
Yeah.
and their privacy in a way. And now when you flip the things,
it's going to change.
I guess when you're the first gentleman, no one cares if you've gone and had your colonoscopy regularly, or if you're jogging every day or riding a bike to stay in shape, because you're not an elected official. But then they do their wives become the center of a necessary. We need to know if they are physically fit for that job. So that's just another interesting little twist as we flip back and forth between gender here coming up on the
Times are changing, right?
Times are really changing. So, I mean, one more question, because we do have another caller. We have another guest on the line. Dan Schnurr, hang on if you can hear me. What about, Bush's wife is interesting, of Latino descent.
Right.
And what about her? I mean, I actually think she would resonate with people. I do. And she's always sort of in the background.
I never see her.
Well,
That's the first time I've ever seen a picture of her.
She's more likable than he is.
She is, but that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be another example of a foreign-born first lady,
Right.
correct? She's not American.
Yeah, right. Another example. So
Spanish-speaking, I'm not sure I'm not sure if she's Cuban or where she's from. Forgive me, I don't. But I mean, she would be. She's Teresa Heinz Carey could have been that foreign-born first lady. But it's amazing to think that over all these years, there's only been one, and that's back in the sixth administration of the United States. It's so far back. We've been such a cookie-cutter, white, Protestant president and first lady. There's only been one Catholic president and first
Kennedy.
lady. Everything has just been.
I'll tell you what. We're
Christian,
such
white. It's.
Andy, we're such a new country still,
Comparative,
comparatively. So that's why. And as time goes on, that's going to evolve out too. But we're going to have to say bye now, which
Andy,
is too
we'll
bad.
have you back once we know more of the next who's
of
the
what's
finalist
going on,
of this
and then we're going to have
contest.
you sort of line them up.
Yeah.
And then you're going to really
Because
dissect.
you're
Absolutely.
these people
super
for
interesting,
us.
Andy. Thank you
you're
so
terrific.
much.
Andy Oak, right? I
Yeah.
said that right. We can't put it on the blooper reel.
Yeah,
so.
no, I appreciate the time, ladies. And again, I just had a fantastic time out at the Hayes Presidential
So glad you were there.
At Linda's
Great
house.
place,
Linda's house.
with a great house, great staff, everything.
Okay, thanks
Thank
a lot
you,
for being
Andy.
on. Thank you.
Woo!
Oh my
love
gosh!
that.
And now he was terrific.
He's a pro. I mean,
He was
knows,
fantastic.
and you know what? He didn't even get into like a tenth of what he knows
No,
about
not
these.
even
so
one.
we just don't have time.
This guy goes so deep. Now, Dan, are you on? Dan Schnurr.
I'm here.
Hi, Dan.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for waiting. I'm sorry. This gentleman, Andy Oak, was just at the Hayes Center and talking about first ladies, and from Martha all the way up to now. And he was very, very interesting. He's recently written a book, so we only just got into some of the ladies that could be first ladies, and then. So
Yeah.
sorry, we went a little over. So how are
No,
you?
no, very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, he's a great
and
guy.
I will tell you, for what it's worth,
Yeah.
Bill Clinton has been asked what he thinks he should be called.
Yeah.
What his title should be if Hillary were elected president.
Bill?
He is suggested being known as the first laddie.
The first laddie.
The first
So
laddie.
there you go.
That's kind of Scottish.
I guess. I mean, just the first gentleman is better if you want to call him a gentleman.
But
so,
that's interesting that someone asked him that already.
Yeah, but
Well,
no
I mean,
one's
that's
really
surprising,
talking
but-
about the women. I guess, look, we got to stick with the
We have a
issues
long way to
first.
go, right?
A long way to go. People don't even know the platforms and issues that they have these guys stand for. So, and girls, ladies. So, Dan, thanks for being here. I know you were probably watching with a microscope last week. We were there. It was fascinating. It was a terrific evening. And I want your take on it. Boom, right away. Just your views.
I don't think I've got anything to offer that your listeners probably haven't heard or read from other places, because I pretty much agree with the conventional wisdom. This is either the 8th or the 9th time that political observers have said, "Oh, this is the end of Donald Trump." And I think we've learned at this point there will be no end of Donald Trump. He will continue. That said, it does appear that the debate in general and Fiorina's approach to dealing with him really does seem to have not only arrested but seems to have reversed his rise in the polls. And some of that, as I said, is his exchange with Fiorina. But I think the other part is there were some pretty long, substantive, detailed policy discussions in which Trump largely withdrew. There was about a 40-minute stretch at one point during the debate where he simply did not speak.
I noticed that. And he just
Yeah.
sort of grimaced. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And while a lot of voters are intrigued by the attitude he brings, it was telling that as the conversation did get more detailed, he got awfully quiet.
Right. That's telling in itself what he didn't say.
Well,
right?
he's
That's
gotta
the foreign
start-
policy part, I think, is what you're talking about.
And didn't he say that he's going to have something out within the next week or two?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Well, his
developing
PR
that now.
line, I don't know, I heard this the other day, is I don't want to reveal what I'm going to do because why would you tell the enemies?
because
Which,
we're still
I mean,
working on it. Yeah.
Right. So
But,
that was his
you guys,
spin
we've
on
been
it.
talking all year long about how Republicans in particular are really invested in the idea of an outsider candidate. And now they have 3, not just Trump, but Fiorina and Carson running second and third in the polls.
Mm-hmm.
And what may have happened after that last debate is a lot of Republicans said, you know what, I do want an outsider, but maybe not that outsider.
Right. It's kind of scary,
I was not
like toe in the water.
I was not particularly impressed with Carly Fiorina. I found her
you were
to
not?
be
No, either
I
was I.
not. I found her to be, and I stand alone. I went on a walk.
Did
with
you
some,
watch her on the late night with what she was on the late show with? Oh, I just forgot who it was.
She doesn't.
Sorry.
I know she's a smart woman.
Yeah.
I know quite a bit about her. I do not respect what she did with Hewlett Packard. I do not.
I do not either.
And the way she tried to talk around it, I don't. And I wanted to stand behind her, and I just
Me
can't.
too.
Because I just can't. I was surprised that she did.
She
as
tried
well
to
as
lighten it up at the late night I can't remember. Oh, I'm so embarrassed who it is.
Well,
she was on with.
her record at Hewlett Packard is ultimately what undid her candidacy when she ran
Barbara
against
Boxer.
Barbara Boxer here in California
There's
a few
no
years
doubt.
back. And it does look, and we'll see if it works or not, it does look like she's prepared herself better to answer those questions
But they're
she had a
very
few years
trite.
than she was a few years ago.
It's very practiced and rehearsed, and I don't think that comes across, at least for me. I don't like it.
But you're right, because we've got Trump, Carly, and the good doctor, still,
1, 2, and 3.
still sort of leading in the polls, which is so interesting. So what does that say about what people are looking for? I was on a walk with two friends. They are extreme Democrats. The kind where they're, thumping their,
Oh, yeah.
pounding their chest saying, I'm moving out if one of them gets in. I said, well, guess what? Again, I do not vote by party, never have. I said, but guess what? My prediction, Trump's going to go all the way. And they said, that's it, I'm moving. They were so angry. It became sort of a volatile walk.
Right.
I had to let go. But I'm going to go on record saying I think he's going to take it all the way. I really do. I think people are enamored. They want to see what he's going to do. If he comes up with anything substantive in
Right,
foreign policy, for example.
Well, and that's the big if. So far, Trump has stayed very, very vague when he has talked on most policy matters. And if he sticks with that path, then I think it's going to get harder for him as voters start looking for more specific answers.
I think you're right.
But you're right. If he does begin to offer a more detailed policy agenda, foreign and domestic, then that probably is what is required for him to maintain. Otherwise, I think at a certain point, voters think, his attitude is refreshing, but attitude only gets you so far until you can fill in the blanks.
He's a quick study, though. He's a smart guy. He's not just a businessman. And again, I'm not necessarily for or against him. I'm just watching. But I've covered him in the past, so I know a little bit about him. And he is a quick study. And I feel like if he's prepped and he understands how the world is working, which he does as a business guy, at least from that point of view, I think that he can be brought up. And I'm curious what he would have to say, what his policies would reveal. Don't you think?
Well, I think you make a good point. Until last week, he really didn't have much of an incentive to get specific because the first act was still playing pretty well.
Right.
Now, if voters are looking for a little bit more, the question is, can and will he adjust?
Right. So who's out next, and where's the base going to go? Because that's the big deal. Like as guys start dropping out, or girl, what's next?
Yeah, we're down to 15 candidates.
Ooh.
At this rate, they'll be down to one by about 2026. Huh?
I mean, these JV guys, they've got to go. I just don't get it. Look, it's for name recognition, right, Dan? They're staying in so people know who they are.
Look, it's for name recognition. Some of them think that they're getting heard on a particular issue. Most of them, what else are they going to do? If you're George Pataki, you finished being governor of New York some years ago. You're making some money in the private sector. You're probably bored. Why not run for president? And what's the disincentive to stay in? But you're right. As the primaries progress, I think the one thing we learned from Walker and Perry is even a really big, fat, rich super PAC can't keep a candidate going if he or she is not catching attention with the voters.
Yeah, but that's when they should pull out, because then they're taking away from the candidates that really do have something to say that really could go the distance. And by staying in there with 1% or less,
But the Republican
it's
Party
ridiculous.
gets involved. When do they step in? Like, there's a lot of negotiating going on behind the scenes.
Well, who's they? I don't know
Well,
that
the Republican
there is a
Party-
Republican in the country who can turn to Mike Huckabee or to
The
Chris
party.
Christie and say, hey, time to go home.
Well, the party does. They step in and talk to their people and say, you got to get out now. I think that goes on. I really do. I think there's a lot of politics behind the scenes with the party.
Yes, Ms. Hayes.
I do. I think so.
But I don't know. because
Dan doesn't agree, I can tell.
Dan, your thoughts?
No, I think I agree that there's a lot of politics in politics. And I believe that there'll be a lot of pressure on some of the bottom tier candidates to get out. But I just don't know who in the Republican Party today has that kind of influence.
Yeah, maybe
Reince
it's
Priebus
changed.
is the chairman of the party. He's a very bright guy. But I don't know that he has the ability or the wherewithal to go to a candidate and say, all right, pull the plug, pal.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, when it gets down to the wire, if they want a Republican in the White House, they do some maneuvering. So I don't know how it works and I don't know. So that'd be interesting.
Well,
I always ask.
I'll
Go
offer
ahead.
you this, and I think you guys make a good point that Trump is certainly has the capacity to become a policy wonk if he decided to be. I just don't think he's going to be.
Really?
This is a guy who, like most of us, we develop learned behavior. When something works for us, we keep doing it. And Donald Trump, not just over the last 3 months, but over the last 30 years, has developed a particular approach to politics and public engagement. He's very confrontational, he's very blustery, and he doesn't really get down in the details. Asking him to remake himself in a couple of weeks, even for a really smart guy, is a tough act to pull off.
It'll be curious to watch this. I'm going to Colorado. Will you be at the debates, Dan? The next set of debates?
I will not be. I'll be watching them on TV with fascination.
I'm going with John. You know, he's going to be covering it. He's doing a show from there. So he's like, Deborah, come for the ride.
That's great.
So I am.
Oh,
yeah.
excellent.
So
We'll have a great time.
Oh, I'm just curious after that what's going to be happening. So I mean, I'm
changing by the minute.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for always coming on. You're sort of our go-to guy, and you're so
Keep
patient
us
with us all
sane
the time.
and make us
I really
look smart.
appreciate it. Yeah, you make us look smart.
We like you,
Well,
Dan.
it's nice of you guys to have me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're our guy. So we're just going to keep going to you until this is over in a year. So thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks,
I look forward to
Dan.
next time.
Okay,
Thanks again.
thank you.
Okay, bye, Dan.
You know what? Thanks, Dan.
He's so patient
I have to say,
and smart. This man is very smart.
very smart. I was talking about late night with Jimmy Fallon. I don't
Yeah.
want to sound like a total moron. She was on there and singing about her dogs. You could tell they were trying to lighten her image.
I know. That's a whole nother show. The handlers. They drive me crazy because, by the way, as I'm talking, do we have that clip of Michael Reagan talking about his dad? Because I kind of wanted to finish with
And
that.
on
In
a
fact, you
positive.
cut it for me the other day. I called Kurt at home the day of the debates in the morning, and I said, you have to do this. I need these cut. He was such a
delightful
Thank you
person.
so much. And he was at home cutting up. I was in my bedroom, sitting there looking at the 1 hour interview that we did and just cutting it up as I was going. And Kurt was just doing it at home. So I know you probably know where it is and which one. So we'll end on it.
I have it ready for you.
I want to say thank you to you.
No problem.
He's the best.
He is amazing. But so yeah, I'm just curious where everything's going to go with all this. And you know, you should try and go with me to.
I know.
To
I should hitch a
Colorado.
ride. Can I hitch a ride in the
Wouldn't
trunk?
that be fun? Yeah. But I almost can't get enough of this. Having been there now, I just want to see it all the way through. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you, Michael Reagan was a delight. Really interesting to meet him. Great personality.
well, the one thing that stuck with a great personality, but the one thing that stuck with I think the two of us was Reagan today would have been so moderate that he
Liberal.
would not have even been popular to his own
Right.
party, perhaps.
I
And
don't know.
was-
He had such charisma.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and I think that's why Trump. I don't know if he has charisma, but he's definitely getting people to listen, and that's half the battle. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
to get people to listen, even if it's negative, is a good thing.
But Reagan was so likable, and
Yeah.
you really believed that
You could trust him. You
he-
felt
you
like
trusted
he had your
him.
back.
You
know?
trusted him, and I loved his son. Michael's a wonderful guy. I know him
Yeah.
for having worked with him. John's worked with him, and he's a terrific guy. A delight. It was great of him to come in. So maybe we should end with
let's end with him.
a soundbite of what his dad was like, and then we'll see everybody back here next
Next week.
week. Thanks for tuning in.
If I endorse anybody, all of a sudden they take it to the bank. Ah, that's the Reagan mantle you
Right,
handed me.
they'll run to
I
town.
cannot give someone a Reagan mantle because there's nobody like Ronald Reagan. We were lucky enough to have Ronald Reagan in our lifetimes. We weren't looking for George Washington or Rutherford B. Hayes when my father ran for president of the United States.
Yeah.
So what we need is we're looking for a leader.